Today we're going to wrap up our discussion of puberty with our senior elementary students by exploring what is normal. Hi, I'm Nadine Thornhill, sexuality educator. Welcome to Save Sex Ed. This is my series where I teach every sex education module in Ontario's 2015 Health and Phys Ed curriculum. If you're new, let me orient you. You can learn more about the series by clicking the eye above, and you can subscribe to the channel by clicking the button below. It says subscribe. The Health and Phys Ed curriculum for grades 1 through 8 outline the following learning objectives for grade 7. Explain how relationships with others and sexual health may be affected by the physical and emotional changes associated with puberty. Today's activity is pretty straightforward. You are going to need some index cards or small pieces of paper, some pens, an enclosed box or basket of some kind, and a sheet of newsprint. Give each student 2 index cards and something to write with. On the first card, ask them to write a question or concern they think people their age might have about their bodies. On the second card, ask them to write a question or concern they think people their age might have about relationships. Now, a relationship could be, like a crush or being attracted to someone, but a relationship could also be relationship with friends, relationship with families, relationship with classmates. So just relationships. Tell your students not to put their names anywhere on the card, and also tell them not to use anyone else's name when they are writing out their question or concern. So for example, saying, "My best friend seems to be growing up faster than me" is fine. Saying, "Stephanie seems to be growing up faster than me," Do your best to make sure that everyone has a bit of personal space while they're writing on their cards, because it is supposed to be anonymous and private, and that way they can have a bit of assurance that no one is looking over their shoulder or looking at their question. Give everyone a few minutes, maybe 5 to 10 minutes, to complete their cards. Tell them that when they're done, they should fold them up. Once everyone is done, walk around with your box or your basket and have everyone put their cards inside. Next, you are going to read the cards and write the list of concerns and questions on a piece of newsprint. And then you can stick that up somewhere where everyone can see it. When I do these type of exercises, I always like to go over my safer space guidelines, particularly any guidelines we have about, being respectful and aware of other people's feelings. Now, everything is going to be anonymous. However, we can still, feel some kind of way if we see our question and we hear everybody laughing. So yeah, just go over those safer space guidelines, remind people to be sensitive. Once the list goes up, ask your group what they think of the questions on the list. Ask them what they might tell a friend or someone close to them if they had those questions or concerns. These 2 questions typically generate a lot of interesting conversation, and during the discussion, you can take the time to reassure youth that their concerns, that their questions, and that their experiences are normal. You can also take the opportunity to answer any specific questions about body changes or transitions. You can assure them that, things like having erections is normal, vaginal discharge is normal. Sometimes people with testicles will get sort of fatty tissue around their chest. That is normal and typically goes away in time. If you want to get some more answers to these sorts of questions, I have a video, 10 things you should tell your kids about puberty. I will link to it above and below. I also have a video about people going through puberty and getting random erections, so I will link to that one also. I find that concerns around body image often crop up during these conversations, and if that happens, you can take the opportunity to remind youth that a lot of the images they see of people, both in traditional media, so like magazines, TV, movie, and in new and social media, so online, like Instagram and other social media platforms, that those images, A, are often enhanced, They are often carefully planned with, ideal lighting and background, and that they also tend to represent a very narrow subset of human bodies, a very narrow subset of phenotypic features. Don't say phenotypic features to grade 8s, I don't care. Just, facial features, and that the reality is there is a much broader range of bodies in the world, and that all of those bodies are good bodies, and they all fall within the parameters of normal, acceptable bodies. We can also reassure youth that it is very normal for relationships to shift and change throughout our lives, particularly when we are going through a period of transition like puberty. It is normal for some of our friendships to maybe change. It's normal for our relationships with our families to change. And it's normal to have different and new feelings about the people around us. So for example, it's very normal to, have crushes, romantic or even sexual feelings towards people. It's also normal though to not have crushes, not have sexual or romantic feelings, during puberty, or for some people ever. It is also normal for your emotions to be more complicated and to be more intense and, to change more rapidly than they might have when you were a kid. It can be a lot to deal with, but it's what is supposed to be happening. If this is a group of students or kids that you see on a regular basis, then my recommendation is actually to hand out the cards at the end of one class or session, and then come back with the questions and concerns written out during the next class. That will give you a time to really review everything that they've written, and it will give you some time to think about how you want to answer and how you want to facilitate the discussion around their questions and concerns. If you know a competent, qualified facilitator or facilitators who hold different identities than you, so different racial or ethnic identity, different gender identity or sexual orientation, different ability, then it can be interesting to bring them in to help facilitate the conversation with you. If you were going to do that, then definitely wait and have the conversation on a different day than the kids fill out the cards, and also be sure to let the youth in your group know that there is going to be another person or other people there having the discussion with them. You can do a version of Question Box at home. Now, there are a couple of ways you can do it, and it doesn't have exactly the same degree of anonymity as doing it in a group setting, but there are parameters that you can sort of put around it to make it easier for your kid to communicate with you. So you can either do it as a physical box, and what you do, you just have a box set up somewhere in your home with a stack of index cards next to it, and your kid can write down their question or concern, put it in the box. You can take it out of the box, and on a different index card, write down your answer, put it back in the box, and they can take it out and read it. Or you can do it through email. You can, just set up a simple Gmail account or whatever that is specifically for them to use. If they have a question or concern, they can write you an email, you can write them back. It may seem strange to communicate with your teen or tween via Question Box, particularly if they live in your house, but doing it through writing as opposed to face can make it easier for some youth to be able to sort of ask that question or express that concern. As I said, it can't be anonymous. Obviously, you will know it's them and they will know it's you, but you can, as I said, put parameters and boundaries around how Question Box or question email is used. Some guidelines I recommend are no judgment. We are not going to, express shock or disgust or dismay or even approval, nothing. There's no judgment. We are just going to take the question or comment and answer as best we can. Another boundary I suggest is that as the adult, you cannot talk to your child about it in person unless they bring it up with you first. Now, obviously, you will make exceptions if it's a situation where it's an emergency, where they're in danger, but generally speaking, it's just gonna be a sort of a written communication, and if they wanna talk to you about it in person, let them come to you. Another guideline I suggest is that as the adult, you are not allowed to ask them a bunch of follow-up questions. Now, if you need to ask a clarifying question, use your judgment, but what you don't want to do is, read their comment or question and be like, why? Why are you asking? What happened? Oh my gosh. Just answer the question that they asked you, and again, let them come to you. And finally, the last boundary I suggest is that as the adult, you are not allowed to yell at your kid about anything that may be in the question box. You are not allowed to criticize your kid for anything they have put in the question box. You are not allowed to hold anything that they have put in the question box against them at a later time. It's like Vegas. What goes in the question box stays in the question box. So this whole video is sort of based around asking and answering questions, but I still have one question that you can use as a conversation prompt, which is, what can I do to make it easier for you to get the information you need about your body and relationships? A lot of the resources I mentioned in Puberty for Intermediate Kids, you can also use for this age group. Some other resources include a great book called Changing Bodies, Changing Lives. I cannot remember the author right now, but it will be in the description box down below. Also the website scarleteen.com. It's run by a group of fantastic sexuality educators. And amongst other things, they have a forum where youth can write in with their questions about, bodies, relationships, sexuality, pretty much everything. And they give these really great, comprehensive, fact-based answers that are incredibly reassuring. And so you can send your tween or teen there if they have questions and they may not want to use your question box or your question email. In the comments below, let me know something that you would have put in a question box when you were a tween or a young teen. So something that I probably would have put in a question box is, how do I shave my armpits? Because I wanted to shave my armpits when I was, 11 and 12 and 13, and I didn't quite know how, and I was too embarrassed to ask my mom or anyone else I knew. So it took me a while to figure out how to shave my armpits. It would have been just great if somebody told me. That's all for now. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you soon. Bye.
You can help me continue creating free sex ed content by supporting me on Patreon. For as little as $3 a month, you'll get access to all sorts of goodies, so head on over to patreon.com/Nadine Thornhill or click the link down in the description below.